All right, I am rested. I am relaxed.
She's back.
Oh,
I
good.
am
She's
back.
back,
I am
back,
so.
back. Emily's back.
Yeah.
Okay. Word.
I apologize for leaving you guys high and dry last
It
week
is.
with these two. Fill in the blank.
Joe was an emotional mess. I had to just keep like.
I actually re-listened to this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rewatched it, and I could even say I know this guy, met this guy on the beach
Yeah.
in Costa Rica, and Joe Yock would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's my brother's.
That's my brother.
Yeah.
I used to coach him
Joe,
in
did you
Little
tell the
League."
story last week about when you were in Indiana?
Everyone,
Oh,
Joe
yeah.
Yock knows everyone.
Yeah. No, I was in Indiana. My son coaches at Huntington University in Huntington, Indiana, and we're walking down the street, going to get something to eat or whatever, and these guys are across the street, and as they go by, somebody turns around and they go, "Hey, it's Yock Talk, baby."
In Indiana.
Stop it.
Yes.
You are blowing his head up.
It's
and
Yock
it is-
Talk,
baby.
No,
How
no.
crazy is that?
He is making things up
He
now.
might be, but you know what? It
It-
makes for a good story. I don't know.
I'm not making that up. That's
Yeah.
a true story. It's Yock Talk, baby.
Wow, it's an early Monday morning. We have some great stuff coming your way. Liberty football signing day. We have some big signees that we want to discuss. Also, Liberty's new all-time leading scorer, Darius McGee, is in studio. We have a debate that's been it started on Twitter
We're not afraid to stir.
about whether or not this is the best Liberty team. Is it ever, or is it just that
Ever
Darius?
Is what-
I
is
mean,
the sound. No, there's been a lot of like,
Ever.
they go back to the quote, it may be the best. So people
Right.
are kind of trying to
Yeah,
backpedal off
yeah,
that a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, but you know.
It's a
Well,
good-
ask Darius.
good- ask Darius.
Yeah.
we'll talk about
coming up
that in
live.
just a moment. But first, the Flames split on the road. Matt, is this just one of? I mean, we'll talk about it with Darius, but I feel like there's just an expectation for this program, which is a good thing that
Right.
they've set through the years about just how good they are, and they've had such a dominant start to this season. But is this something that we need to just expect because it's A, conference basketball, and B, playing on the road is not easy no matter what conference
No,
you're
it's
playing.
not. And, I meant to look up the numbers, but I know that in the ASUN especially, it seems like home court is so valuable this year.
Right.
You see teams just like violent swings, like them playing at home, and then they look good, they go on the road and they look awful. Lipscomb's a good team. I know a couple of weeks ago, they were still leading the league in field goal percentage. They're well coached. You knew that was going to be tough. And Liberty, these last couple of games, there's one thing that is a little bit concerning, but I think if anyone can get it right, it'll be Coach McKay, is the defense has not been what we had seen. Going into the Austin Peay game on Thursday, Liberty was giving up about 53 points per game in conference play. They gave up 70 to an Austin Peay team that's not good. And then they turn around and give up 69 to Lipscomb, which that one's a little bit more understandable. But even in that, they had some guys that played above their norm. So the defensive part is the part that we need to get back to what we do. You'll have a chance to do that Thursday against Bellarmine. So yeah, listen, what do they always say? Pressure is a privilege. Expectations are a privilege. You build these expectations by winning. You want them. You want people to expect you to win. You want your team to expect to win. But yes, in a long conference season, there are going to be games like that. Thankfully, Kennesaw State also lost. They dropped one on the road to Eastern
sitting on
Kentucky.
top. Oh,
And
okay.
so that game on February 16th in Kennesaw, Georgia, assuming Liberty can take care of business against two tough teams, Bellarmine,
Showdown, baby.
Eastern Kentucky this week at home. But if you take care of your business there, that's basically the one seed.
Showdown
And we know how
at
important that
the
is. That's home court
OK
throughout the tournament.
Corral.
So Liberty doesn't play Kennesaw State at home, correct?
Nope,
They're
they
just
do
on
not.
the road. Okay. Yeah, so that will be a big
That's
time.
huge. You essentially have a 2-game lead if you both go in with the same record.
Yeah,
because you'll have the
and what he
tiebreaker.
said there is pretty simple. It's like that the swings from home and being
Yeah.
away. So now the tournament, the ASUN tournament, as we discussed, if you're the number one seed, you get all the way through.
Right.
All the way to the championship. So what a
And
huge
seeing how good
advantage
Liberty's been
that
in their
is
building, and
in
we've
their
seen
building.
the crowds that have been here at
Imagine what
Liberty
it's
Arena.
gonna be like come tournament time.
That's right. You want to make sure you've got that one seed.
Sparky's gonna be going crazy. Emily's gonna be running around
Emily's
from
gonna be
side to
running
side.
around.
Warner's, Naz gonna be at the place going nuts.
You're going to be catching cheerleader
I'll
shirts.
be catching, diving over
T
top
for
of
3
people, trying to get
shirts.
T for
Yeah,
3
fighting
shirts,
people for
fighting some
t-shirt
little
giveaways.
Kid, giving the hockey business,
Yeah.
doing all this stuff. I mean, that's how
That
you
was
get
an
action.
undercut.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what you do in hockey. You take
The
the jersey, and you pull it up over his head, and
Yeah.
you hit him with the uppercut.
Yeah, I've played.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be real exciting. And this is the thing with Richie and the staff. It's like so much of basketball, and you look at North Carolina's run last year with Hubert Davis, where they were struggling so bad. It's peaking
Right.
At the right
at
time.
that right time when it all comes together and you hit it at the right time there, and it's just so hard to get that formula right and the recipe right, but Liberty's the kind of team that can do it.
Yeah.
Question for you about that last shot in that last play in the Lipscomb game. Are you okay with Kyle Rode taking that final shot?
Yeah.
Because everyone in the world knows, right, that Darius McGee should get the ball, and I mean.
Right.
Kyle Rhodes made some big shots. He's been shooting the ball well, so you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah, totally. You've got, veterans on this team that have been in these big moments. And to your point, everybody knows where number 2 is. They're following McGee around. You get an open look like that.
He was
you
wide
gotta take
open.
it. It was wide open.
Right.
And you make him, and he'll make it, more often than not, but you don't that time, but you live with it. And that's something Coach McKay's talked about a lot is, it's not just the result, it's also the quality of shot we're getting. Because typically, the better the quality of shot, the results will follow. And that was a quality shot, wide open 3. He'd hit one a little bit, just a minute earlier or so. So, yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that.
I know Flames Nation, no one likes to lose and all of that, but seriously, it's not realistic to think that Liberty is just going to dominate every team along the way. I think that it's really important for the Flames to be in late game situations like this so they understand how to feel that pressure and actually execute under that pressure.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And Joe, you'll probably agree with me being a former coach. Naz actually mentioned this to me during the last homestand. He said, you know what this team needs? They need a close game.
Yeah.
They need that because when you're just blowing the doors off of people like they were there for a while, and then you get into tournament play and you haven't seen a close game in a month and a half or something, you need some of these. Now, it didn't go their way this time, but just for the execution part of it, there's the pressure part of it, just to have to okay, clock, what's the clock? Where are we at? What do we all of the execution pieces, it's good to find yourself in some situations like that before your season's on the line.
The experience. I think the big part of, and in sports, any sport, and whatever you play, the experience of having that feeling in a pressure situation for the first time is not a great feeling, right? But the more you experience, the more that you as an athlete learn how to deal with it. The more as a coaching staff learns how to deal with those situations. Okay, guys, we've been here before. Calm down. Don't panic. Let's execute. We've prepared for this. Let's do it. And the more you can do that, the more opportunity there is for success because especially when you do it and succeed.
Yeah.
When you can do it and make the plays, then and you're not always going to make them. Sometimes the shot's just not going to go in. But if you can do it and then you succeed at doing it, when you get in that next situation, you feel more prepared to be able to handle it.
Yeah, because you can draw that up in practice all day long.
Yeah,
but I'm sorry, until you're in that game environment,
100%.
you're not going to fully execute, in my opinion. Okay, we have Darius McGee in the studio, so let's go ahead and get to his conversation. Here with the one and only Darius McGee, Liberty basketball's all-time leading scorer. So, of course,
you're going to be introduced that way for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life.
Do you realize that? It's like a gold medalist, in the Olympics. Forever now, you're going to be Liberty all-time leading scorer, Darius McGee.
I hope not. I hope it's
Unless we get some other worldwide pandemic that adds on years of eligibility for some really other talented player.
I don't want that.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Have you gotten a call from Carl Hess yet?
I have not.
You have not gotten your Carl. Carl, reach out. That was a heck of a record.
Yeah.
Because Carl played back in the what?
I think 1980. I think that's when he finished up. Yeah.
No messing around.
I had a feeling that Darius was going to react like this. I know it means something to you, but you're just so humble that you're more worried about winning, and that's all that matters to
Darius,
you.
did you know that Carl Hess was a referee?
I did.
You did know that?
Yeah.
Referee
I know it's a rule where you can't officiate for schools you used to play for or attend.
Oh.
So it's probably why we never had to
Never
the
cross
captain's
paths.
huddle.
That's
Yeah,
good
I've
because
seen
he
some
would have fouled
documentaries
you
on
out so quick to keep that record. You wouldn't have had a
That's true.
chance. Yeah.
Probably not,
Yeah.
probably not.
All right. Well, Darius set that against Lipscomb and at the 13-18 minute mark in the second half. You now have 2,384 points. Again, I think it's going to take some time for you to reflect on this because it just happened. But what are your initial thoughts on breaking the record?
Honestly, I don't think it's resonated, but I think the only cool part about it is my family, they hardly go to road games. But for some reason, a month ago, my mom and uncle kind of put together this
really?
trip to Nashville. unknowing that would be like
The record being sight.
the game
Yeah.
would be there. So it's kind
Right.
of dope to do it in front of them, but I don't
See,
think
and-
Emily's
personally
getting
it's not
emotional.
Did they know that on the broadcast? Because I would have, if I'm the director, I would have taken the shot
shot
of the parents or of your mom right when you had it,
They had no
celebrating, tears falling. That's good
See, if it had been a
television.
home game, Emily would have had a mic right up in their
Mhm.
face.
Oh, yeah, she
it would have
would've.
been
Oh, yeah.
really just
Oh,
too
yeah.
much, probably.
Mama
Like,
McGee.
Yeah.
we normally do the complimentary tickets, of course, for like the family, but like they had it so planned out, they bought the tickets themselves. So it was like
so
they
wait,
weren't
did they
even like right
surprise
behind
you?
the bench. They were kind of like up a little bit.
Did you know they were there?
I know it was gonna be the trip, but like I said,
You
no
had
one
this
knew that
in-
game was
in
gonna
the-
be.
You had this in the
Okay.
works the
Yeah,
entire
I
season.
did it.
I'm going to break it when
I did
mom's
it.
here.
Yeah.
That's a good son right there.
He's
Well,
such a nice son.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I want to go
Special.
through each
love.
one of the
Love.
2,384 points with
Yeah.
you, if that's all
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
no.
let's start with the first.
But
Yeah.
you think about that. Is there a basket that you think back on? And obviously, hopefully, there's more to come. But like, you're like, man, that one, that was the biggest shot I hit, or I know that was a special one that I had. Like, do you think back on anything like that?
Honestly, probably not. Probably like my freshman year,
Really?
the regular season game. So you know the championship game, Georgie kind of had like a play where he hit a shot in the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
had
remember that
one
one.
kinda-
That's one of the biggest
Yeah,
shots
the
in program
biggest
history,
shot.
right?
I'm,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he just retweeted that and
Yeah,
said
yeah,
this
yeah.
was my
That was-
favorite
yeah,
moment.
Yeah.
And the regular season, it was like when we played them the second time in their place.
Yeah.
The possessions were kind of close, and it was kind of similar possession where something happened and it was like swing in the same exact corner. And it was probably like, obviously I was a freshman, so I was kind of a little
Yeah.
nervous to shoot that one, but it went in. So I'd probably say that one,
Yeah.
just because how young I was and kind of pressure situation, in my opinion.
Well, I know thinking back on, obviously you've hit so many just crazy shots, like just like ones that you're like, you have never seen before, like the one you shot straight up on the road this year.
Bellarmine.
Yeah, at Bellarmine, that one.
Yeah, left-handed.
Yeah, there's a couple left-handed threes you made this year as well. I, though, think back to the NCAA tournament against Virginia Tech. People all remember the Mississippi State game for good reason because Liberty won that game. But you scored, 15? I think they were all in the first half, 5 threes against Virginia Tech, basically to keep Liberty in that ball game. We were up, actually, we were up 3
Yeah,
at
we
the half.
were.
And it was just like, you went off in that game. What was that? Was that, you talk about being nervous, like that had to be a pretty special moment. Obviously, it didn't end the way you wanted
The
it
nerves got out, honestly, the game before.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, just being so nervous playing against Mississippi State. March Madness, you can feel, like, the energy changing in the arena. Like, every shot, the oohs and the ahs, you can kind of feel, like, the breath of the crowd on the floor. So, like, all the jitters got out that game. And Ty Outlaw, who played for Virginia Tech at the time, was also from Roxborough. So, like, it almost felt like we played him again for the second time, so it wasn't
Yeah,
that big
yeah.
of a nerve-rattling game, even though the stakes were kind of high. So
Do you remember your first ever bucket in a Liberty uniform?
I have no idea.
Really?
No idea, really.
Probably a layup. I hope.
You know,
Really look back.
Joe asked a question. We're gonna figure out what it was. We're
Yeah,
gonna go back and
that's-
find
Yeah.
it.
So
You got to go back.
here's,
and look up
We're
my
going.
phone.
We're going back into the archives. Yeah.
here's what I want to know, Darius. With some of the, you're pulling the trigger from everywhere, right? And you obviously got the green light to pull the trigger from everywhere. What gets into you sometimes when you pull the trigger from everywhere? You know, kind of thing. Is it just like every shot you feel as if you're gonna take, like I'm gonna make it, or it's like, hey, I got the green light. I'm pulling the trigger from everywhere, baby. I don't care. So when you take a shot, do you like think as you're taking the shot, man, this is a really bad shot. I hope this goes in, or is it like every shot you take, you feel like I'm gonna make it?
I mean, we shoot all shots to make, but every shot I've shot in, aside from probably, well, yeah, every one of them.
They're going in.
Yeah.
Oh
In
my
practice,
gosh.
in practice, or
Because
like-
there's when you sit in the crowd and you're watching the game, and like my son who's 23 just loves it because he's like street baller kind of, you know. So when he's like, this dude at Liberty, Darius McGee, he's like, he always talks to his buddies like, you gotta come watch this guy play. He shoots from it's ridiculous, right? Because that's sometimes like when you go to shoot, it's like, whoa, what's he doing?
Yeah.
And then it goes in.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
every
so
shot-
you feel like, and Coach McKay and the staff, they're like, all right, just do what you do. Is that true?
I mean, it's
Or they get
definitely-
on you at all?
It's definitely some earning. They definitely get on me at
They do.
for sure. Especially like when we review games in certain situations. But every shot I've shot in, I've made it in practice several times, or especially like in my workouts, they're a part of it.
Okay, so that's a big part of your workouts then.
So in the games,
seen
it's
you
just a
do
matter of like having the confidence to do it, reading the situation, reading the space. Like you don't want to never do something for the first time in the game. So
Yeah.
that's like a big no-no.
And that's like you talk about one you shot straight up against Bellarmine. Like that was incredible. We've never seen that in a game. But like Naz and I are texting, we're like, well, we've seen him do that
Practice.
in warm-ups. Like we see you do that before games all the time. And when you're doing it, we're always like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then obviously, you make one like that. So it's not just goofing around. It's not just, going through like kind of just not paying attention. Like these are things that you're actually working on I guess I should say, if the opportunity arises in the game.
For sure. And like that shot against Bellarmine, like my intentions weren't to shoot it sky high, but I also knew what the shot clock was, and that was just like the fastest way I can get it off and still make it like a basketball-like shot. So I guess the instincts just kind of took over.
There's a method to your madness.
Yeah.
That's what.
By the way, do you remember a certain game against an old rival in Maine, Fort Kent? You don't. That was your first game. That was when you would have scored your first bucket. Looking back, you had 10
You
points.
guys won 89-40.
You were only 1 of
The
7
close
from
one.
3, so you picked it up since then. But
was a
10
couple
points. That was,
games like
that was your
that.
first game. That was your first game. So there you go.
Wow.
First bucket. Maine, Fort Kent.
You
They'll
don't
remember.
You don't remember that?
No, but I definitely remember being like super nervous, like the first 2 medias I was a part of, like the 4-minute segments in the game. But I remember like the game was going super fast. Like when you come in as a freshman that summer, the practices are already much faster, but it seemed like the game was going like this.
Yeah.
So I kind of give y'all freshmen like heads up, like you're gonna be tired like the first 4 minutes, and you're probably not gonna expect it, but everyone hits it.
So where you are today, how much has the game slowed down for you?
A lot, honestly. Just because I don't have to adapt to the pace of the game, the physicality of the game as much. I for sure know where I'm supposed to be in certain spots.
Yeah.
Versus freshman year is like you still trying to remember the plays.
You're just hoping you're where you're supposed
Depending
to be.
on your teammates to put you
Too much
like in the
thinking.
correct spots.
Yeah.
I remember going to Georgie several times, like, what's the play call? What am I supposed to do in the middle of games?
Yeah.
Just because like there's so many different calls, actions that you have to do. So now that you know exactly what you're doing, what you're supposed to look for, it's easy to time those things up. So
You talk about the physicality. Obviously, there have been a number of times I feel like this year that Flames fans have kind of held their breath where you've gone out, right? Where you've taken a hit, or you've, even this last game, you took a hit kind of the side of the knee there early in the game. People are like, oh no, what's going on? Do you feel like this season, do you feel like teams are defending you different or trying to be more physical with you because they know, how dangerous of an offensive player you are? Has that changed at all?
oh, for sure.
Yeah?
Like, you go back to kind of watch how the coverages were or the physicality was from my freshman year to now, which is like respected. It's because like
Yeah.
that's their job
They
to
know.
figure out what to do, just the same way we do for their players. So like it's just it's almost like chess. You take the situation, what's going on, you try to like respond to that in the best way you can, prepare for it the best way you can. Like even in practices, like our players simulated in practices just so we can
They hit
prepare
you in
for it.
practice is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Some of them.
I'm,
Not
yeah, I'm
gonna
sure
rat
Coach
on them,
McKay, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Keep your
I
hands
mean,
off.
that's all basketball plays,
Right,
but
right.
Last time you came on the Flame Central podcast, you told us that you were a big chess guy. You still play a lot?
from time to time. I can't really like sit down and play now just because of time, but I'll have friends where we'll send like the game pitching games on our phone
Mm-hmm.
and we'll like have a chess match going.
Oh, nice.
I
It
still
won't,
can
it
see
won't
that.
end
I
in
can't
the
figure
same
out the
day.
pieces.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, helps
So-
with his decision making.
Helps with decision
Yeah,
making.
that's why.
So on your teams here at Liberty, since you've been here, and this team that you're on right now, right? How does this team compare to those teams in the past that you've been on? And do you feel as if this team has the capability to make one of those good runs in March?
I would say this team is probably competing with my sophomore year team.
So a team that went, 30-4? Is that right? Yeah.
It's just very different.
So have you heard a lot of the buzz about that? That's been
That
a
this is the
lot.
best.
There's been a lot
Yeah.
of debate about that on social media this year.
It's very different. Like if you could simulate a game between the two, it'd be a very close competitive
Right,
game.
yeah.
But it's like that team played in a lot of like freelance in a sense. Pieces are very like comfortable in their roles, efficient in their roles. Defensively, there's like versatility on both teams. Like the bigs, they can like swap 4 or 5, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that game would be very competitive. You also
Darius McGee just happens to be
go.
on both
Right,
teams.
so
So
he kinda
how
cancels each
humble
other
is
out.
he?
Yeah, he cancels
How
each other
humble
out.
is he?
If we
I'm
asked
kidding,
Mayo or
Darius.
Cuff, what do you think some of the older guys, like, well, they're as close to it as anybody. What do you think they would say comparing the kind of the eras, if you will, or the
They
teams?
were, I mean, Mayo and Cuff, they see the holes in this team
Yeah.
every single day. But like we play, so we know the holes in our past team. So
Yeah.
they would probably say a similar response. They'll probably give a hat to themselves because they're
course
super
they will,
competitors. But
Yeah.
you look at, you have like a talented Caleb Humsley,
Right.
Yeah.
who is
Who's matching up against him? on
scoring
this
at all
team?
3 levels, but Shallow guarded Caleb from day one he came in. Like that was his matchup just because of size and athleticism. So, and Shallow's way different now than he was his freshman year. Body's grown a little bit, and like when Caleb comes back and plays one-on-one, plays pickup with us in the summertime, Shallow's the one who's guarding him. So you add Shallow, JV, Zay, 3 different defenders who can just hopefully annoy him as much as possible. So
So just so we're clear, you're saying that all 3 of those guys would shut Caleb Holmes. Would you look in the camera and say, Caleb, they would shut you down?
I said annoy them, but I know we all know Caleb's moves like no other because we've seen every single day about it. So
Okay, so
He hasn't picked up any new moves
All right, let's
along
go
the
ahead.
way.
Let's go ahead.
gotta take the core ones away first.
Go ahead and put you on the spot now.
Okay.
Give us the final score in that game. Give us the final score of that game. And you feel as if in both games you're balling.
You're probably you're hitting
balling.
the go-ahead shot at one end, and
Yeah.
then you're hitting the go-ahead shot at the other
Give
end.
us a
and
final
then-
score. What happens in that game?
I would say
Drum roll, please.
66-64, us, this team.
Oh!
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I love
See,
it.
that's higher scoring than I imagined. The 2 of you playing. I thought you
Wow.
might
Some
get that may
weapons.
get
The
down
pace
to
will
like
be a
the
little
50.
faster because this team right now plays way faster than that one, but
Love
Yeah.
it.
Awesome.
Love it.
they could score the ball easily.
As we've talked about on this podcast before, there are lessons in losing.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a leader of this team,
I almost made a joke, but I didn't do it.
Okay.
yeah, but
Emily talks
you
about that a
interrupting
lot,
and
yeah.
Sorry.
I just
Sorry,
like
Emily.
adversity because you've talked about this a lot with
Yeah.
with not only this team but in the past, like what you guys can learn from the adversity. As a leader of this team, what was the message after this loss? Because I feel like you guys have like set this expectation that you're supposed to just go undefeated in conference
Yeah.
play, win the conference outright every year, but that's not really the reality of conference basketball.
Just like understanding what it's like to play on the road against like a rival team. This was the first time you get to experience it. Crowd like that away, Lipscomb, who was always gonna be super talented, and offensively, like they were clicking. So you start to see how hard it can be if you let teams do what they want to do in like those given situations where we lack to execute down the stretch, or like just understanding like this is college basketball. Like we've had a couple games where we've blown teams out. Like that's fine and dandy. Like we want to do that, but at the same time, like that's not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like coming back to what college basketball is all about. So not to get too high or too low on a loss, but like it is a loss. Like it's going to sting for the first however many hours, but also don't think the building is falling either.
Yeah, I think, and that's been one of the characteristics of these Liberty teams over the past 4 or 5 years. It seems like the poise, like no matter if you're on the road at an SEC environment or you're here or you're around the ASUN, it just seems like no panic. Where does that come from? Like where has that been? How has that been instilled in you guys as a program?
Man, I think it starts from leadership up top, Coach McKay. Coach McKay is very poised.
We see very poised.
When we reflect, like when we watch film after games, like today, like he's always very poised, but he's a super competitor. So you can see, when you can see somebody with that much emotion and like that invested into a game, and then have that amount of poise afterwards, it's easy for us as players who are just as competitive to kind of follow in those footsteps. So the team, we're like sponges. So like you see that
That's a good way to put
reaction,
it.
we kind of grasp and want to grab and like conduct ourselves the same way. So.
And you can feel that like late game and tight game situations, like in the huddle. Like I would be such a crazy mad. All right, listen, we just got to figure something out. You got to score as fast, like an absolute. And Coach McKay is just like, this is Coach McKay 90% of the huddle.
Yeah, it's always in hand.
Yeah.
And like we
And
simulate
then
these games.
also to play.
Like in practices, we'll do like deficit games where we're down this much and this is the amount of time on the clock. So like you got to prepare for those things. Like I
Right.
said, you never want to be in the game and this is your first time doing something. So
Yeah, I don't prepare.
So as you come down the home stretch
Last
right
question,
now,
Joe, we
last
gotta-
question. Well, you come down the home stretch right now, and you get into winning a conference championship, trying to get into the NCAA tournament in March. If you had to pin down a couple things that you say, like obviously you have to do all the pieces of the puzzle right in order, but if there was a couple things in order to win late in the season, what would you say, like, really were the areas that you have to play well? Some say, I always say you have to have great guards in March. All people say all the time. What would you say are the in terms of winning a conference title that you really have to excel at as you finish up the season here?
I think defensively you got to be really prepared. So like scouting other teams' plays, kind of doing whatever you can to make sure you're not behind the play. Elite communication, just because there's so many different things going on in the mix of the game. So all 5 players got to be on the same page. All 5 players got to be able to execute whatever the coaches are calling or saying. And you got to play without fouling. Like you can't be a team that fouls a lot and expect to win. Team shooting 15 to 20 free throws is a recipe for a loss.
Breaking the analytics down, I love it.
I'll say that.
Love it.
Last one from me. Earlier this season, Eastern Kentucky on the road weren't having the greatest shooting night of your life. Not trying to throw you under the bus. No, this is very, I think I'm very interested to know this because
We all
I would
watch the
just
game.
be down in the dumps. What'd you say?
So we all watch the game.
Yeah, we don't need a reload.
Well, it's just, I would be down in the dumps and be moping and whatever if I was missing a bunch of shots. But how does your mindset shift? And what you mentioned earlier, not getting too high, getting too low. How does your mindset shift when you don't have the greatest shooting night, when we all know you're the greatest shooter in program history?
I mean, it's like life. There's going to be days where things are really, really bad. And there's going to be days in life that things are really, really good. So, like, there's going to be games where you make 90% of your shots, and there's also going to be games that you make 10 to 15% of your shots. You just got to understand that that's all a part of it. Like, it wouldn't be the game itself if you didn't have this and that. So, it's like, that's why you don't get too high or too low on either one, just because, like, if you can move us in the middle higher, that's when like great things happen, or you're considered to be great. But
And you always believe the next shot's going in, right?
always, like,
Always believe that, or are you shifting your mindset? I'm going to start attacking the basket. The shots just aren't falling tonight. Or
for
you
sure, you
still
take
shooting.
you take that into consideration, but like you also have to read what's going on. Like if you miss, if you go 0 for 7 for 3, and then the possession happens and you're wide open in the corner and the ball's in your hand,
Shoot it.
and it's like one of those I have to shoot a ball.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna second
Right,
take that one. Like,
right.
I have to shoot it.
Last thing, and we'll let you go. You've got 3 regular season home games left.
Mhm.
Hopefully, you have 3 more after that.
Mhm.
But are you reaching the point where it's like you're kind of soaking it in a little bit more? Like, has that clicked in your mind yet that like this is the one of the last? Oh, it's like you're checking those boxes. I've only got so many times left. Is that kind of starting to sink in a little bit yet, or are you there?
Very little. I don't think it's really like been at the forefront of my mind, but just because so focused on winning the games. It's like I'm already thinking of like Bellarmine is no joke. The pace of their offense is crazy, and like they can be anybody at any given time. You have to strip away records, however who's playing bad the week before. Like you really have to just take it for what it is. So like you do that Thursday, you do that Saturday. By the time the next week roll around Sunday, we have recovery, and like today we're preparing for the next game. So like I don't think you have time to really sit around and think about what's down the road. You're always like one thing to the next.
Well, you already have one senior day in your back pocket.
I know.
anyway, so
He
you've
kind
already
of pulled
done
a
it
Tom
once.
Brady
Right,
already. He's
right,
like,
a
all
little
right, I'm
bit.
not going to retire. I'm going
Yeah.
to come back. So you
Yeah,
can't do that
that's
again.
true.
No.
Do they give you, I've always
Unfortunately.
wondered, do they let you keep the first frame jersey and then give you a second, or did you have to return the frame jersey and then they give it back to you?
I hope I get a second one.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
good. Well, you let us
You
know.
need
Yeah,
to. You
yeah, I
deserve
think
to.
so.
Darius McGee, congratulations.
Wait. Stare
Oh,
in the
wait.
camera. Darius, look at that camera
Oh my
right there.
gosh.
This one?
Yeah, that right there. And
Okay.
say, Flame Central Podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. Sell it like it's just Shul's commercial.
You gotta
Powered
pay
by
for this.
Alcova,
Yeah, Alcova Mortgage, Flame Central Podcast,
Flame Central Podcast, sponsored.
Powered.
Flame Central Podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage.
And that's yours, buddy.
It's mine?
That's yours. You drink
Honestly, it kind
Yacht
of threw me
Talk.
off. I was trying to make sure, like,
Yeah,
I was
Yacht
saying.
Yacht Talk
Yeah.
is.
Yacht Talk?
There's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
going
Yacht
on
Yeah, I
on
was
those
saying
mugs.
John.
He has
There's a
no
lot-
idea.
There's a lot going on.
You know what?
We're getting a new marketing brand manager.
The brand is great. You know.
But you got to keep it consistent. Yacht
sure.
Talk or
Yeah.
Flame Central Podcast?
Yacht Talk mug right there. You just you hold on to that.
Do you drink
Okay.
coffee?
I
You
do
a
not.
coffee guy?
But I will say the colorway on
Hot
the mug
cocoa.
is very nice.
Oh, I
So
like
you
that.
can-
Oh.
See, that's
Look
nice.
at that.
I will say
Selling
that.
it. Darius McGee, congratulations on the new all-time lean scoring record
right.
here at Liberty.
Let's add to it.
Can't wait to see Flames Nation get out there to see this guy play Thursday night, 7 o'clock tip. Thanks,
Thank
Darius. Darius McGee, as humble as the day is long.
Yeah.
Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a supporter of Yacht Talk.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that had to be the first.
And okay, I really felt when he left here that he was beginning. He didn't fully understand.
Wait,
but
did
he's
you just hear a shatter?
Stop
Did
it.
that mug just
Stop
shatter?
it.
What an idiot.
Find it in the trash can right outside the office. He better
You know,
not.
I have feelings
He better
too.
not.
Joe,
I have
you
feelings
are
too.
special.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You
people
are
like
loved.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll give you my therapist's number
Yeah.
after the show.
He's gonna understand the circle of trust, and he's a believer.
Okay, can we talk about the final score of what he said with the best team?
Oh, unbelievable!
I mean, was that surprising
I
to
felt
you?
the
Matt
no-
Warner,
I
you've
felt-
been
I
covering
thought
these
he's gonna do that.
teams.
What'd you think, Matt?
No, I thought because he can't. I mean, listen, he has one foot in with this current team.
Right.
He's with all those guys. Like he couldn't like just say, "Oh yeah, we'd blow him out." Like you've got to walk that line as
walked
close
it.
as you can. I think he
Play
did a
along.
good job
Yeah.
walking it. Yeah.
I think he's
I'm
about
really-
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of true. I guess they would match up pretty well. I guess you just have you have like a big guy like Scotty or Mayo going
Scotty
up
would
against
be
like
interesting. Blake Preston, which
against-
those two
yeah.
guys again. Blake was on those teams too.
Yeah,
So
he
like
was
they
going up against them.
butted heads in practice every day.
Man.
Yeah, it would be interesting. It would be very interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's the when you get older, you start like looking back fonder on days like that. Like everyone that saw Jordan play and those teams
Yeah.
are always like they would find a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard. It's hard to believe that those teams, Georgie Pacheco, those guys, like or even Lavelle Cabell, if you go back to the year before, like that they wouldn't find a way. Those guys were tough.
Makes the debate fun.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It does.
I wasn't in that year.
Yeah.
I wasn't in that year. I was the year after. But that year after,
Yeah.
there's just so much
The COVID year,
unknown
yeah.
because the COVID year, like how deep
COVID,
that.
schmovid.
Okay. We have a great my moment for Darius McGee coming up. I
the
don't know.
TV
if-
show,
I,
yeah.
I'm thinking it's going to be for this week, but you will be so surprised about what his moment is. It's not going to be what you think, but it goes with Darius McGee and
So
how
humble.
humble he is.
Yeah.
So be sure to check that out. Also,
Reminds me of Joe in a lot of
It
ways
does.
in terms of the
Yeah.
the
humility.
complete opposite.
That's
Yeah. The
No,
complete
we're-
opposite.
Yeah.
We're very
That's- I
similar,
kept
very
just-
soft-spoken,
Right.
very humble.
It was like-
don't like any attention.
Right.
Yeah,
It was weird. It was like I was looking at the same two of the same people.
We
a
get
lot.
along well.
Yeah.
We'll probably
I
after he
love-
graduates, I'm sure we'll hang out.
It's just ridiculous that he gets all
He's
the
busy, a little
love.
busy right now.
He
Right
gets all
now,
the
yeah,
love
that's
for
it.
like acting like this, and then you get called out in the mailbag for acting like like this.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you.
know
Thank you.
what?
But then he just gets
Thank
praised
you.
for it. It's just absolutely absurd.
How-
I
Yeah.
can't.
How I pull
I
out.
digress.
Yeah.
You did take a shot.
You
you
took
know,
a
that's fine.
shot.
That's fine.
defended
That's why
you.
God gave me these broad shoulders, Joe. Just to carry the load.
It's so
Yeah.
bad. We don't really have that much from the mailbag this
Yeah.
week, so I need you to go to flamecentral@liberty.edu
Yep.
if you want one of these amazing mugs.
Oh my
because
gosh,
I don't
we
know if
should
you
put
By the
know.
way, we have a mug shot. We do have a
The
mug
mug
shot.
shot.
We'll right about now. I'll be putting it on to the
Bam.
YouTube
let's get some
video.
music.
So yeah. So Will send us a picture.
Great mug shot.
Yeah.
But if you have a great question, which if there's only one this week, then I guess you're getting a free mug. You need to send those in. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a comment. It could be
Yeah.
criticism. Whatever.
Yeah.
Really,
We've-
whatever
and
you want.
We've done that too. Yeah.
Okay,
You're not
let's
an
I
arrogant jerk.
appreciate that.
let's switch from the hardwood to
But I don't even remember.
I don't
it.
even-
Or
I'm
something
not
like
even
that.
listening to
Right,
them.
right.
our audio guy says,
Yeah.
please, all three of you don't talk at the same time, and we
Oh.
continue to do that. His name's Alex. Let's let the people know behind the scenes. We
That's
got
right.
Alex and
Does
audio,
a great
Doug
job.
behind the 7 cameras. Let's switch from the court to the gridiron. Liberty
Yes.
football had a great signing day. I just love the vibe of this new coaching staff. I haven't met
fun.
everyone. I know you. I want
Very
you to
fun.
talk about
We got to-
Yeah.
about the meet and greet that you did with all of them. But
great meet and greet.
I saw that. Is it a GIF or GIF?
I go
know.
GIF. I go hard because you don't want to confuse it with the peanut butter.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely don't want to confuse it with peanut butter. So
I go GIF.
GIF.
Sure.
GIF.
It's either or.
I don't know. Because you drop the T and it, So that they did when the Coach Chadwell had a
Signing
good
day
signing and everybody celebrated. So now that's a GIF and it's one of my new favorites. But what stands out to you the most about this new signing class, or who?
Well, I think they did a good job of balancing transfer portal and high school guys, and I don't think typically that Chadwell's going to go as hard into the portal as Hugh Freeze did. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you use the portal to just fill those immediate needs, but you still, that development piece with the young guys is so critical. So I love some of the pickups that they have here. Like honestly, one of my favorite ones, just because I actually watched him play a couple of times, is the running back Quentin Cooley from Wake Forest.
That's what I
like
was
this guy is a 5'9", 213-pound bowling ball.
Yeah.
And I watched him in their.
I've been described as that one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the blonde bowling ball over here. Yeah. I watched him against Mizzou in their bowl game. He ran for 31 yards on 4 carries. Like, tough runner. I think you add him. You also add in another running back transfer from Arkansas and the Joyner kid, James Joyner, who he was a really highly touted kid coming out of high school. So that running back room should be dynamic when you get day-to-day healthy. One other interesting little note that Jamie Chadwell said in his press conference when asked about that room, he said, yeah, and we think we're going to move Shadro back out to a wide receiver.
Like
so you get Shadro back out there more into where you can get him, in space, which is what he started as when he got here. So that will be interesting. And it's something actually they talked about doing last year with him, but then you had some injuries and stuff and weren't able to do that. So that's exciting. Another playmaker at the receiver spot. But yeah, I think those 2 running backs for me are big. And then also one other one, the Reese Smith kid, wide receiver transfer from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Got a couple of sources that are big West Virginia fans that I reached out to.
Nice.
They said, this kid is your classic third down. You got to move the chains. He's that guy.
Wow.
And he had some big catches for them. And so we'll be excited to see him as well.
Yeah,
One thing that we took from Chadwell's press conference after signing day was about the offensive line. I think he said 7 of them. I mean, it's a veteran offensive line for this year, but what is your concern level moving forward with filling such an important position?
Yeah, I mean, you look at both sides of the football. Like when you start breaking down the numbers, and if you have the numbers there, Matt, like what positions that they signed. I was looking at that. Defensive linemen, a lot of defensive linemen. What was the number on that?
60 linemen.
60 linemen. How many offensive linemen?
5.
And 5 offensive linemen. So whenever you're going to win in college football, you're going to win with your front 7 on defense, and then you're going to win with establishing the line of scrimmage with the offensive line. So I think you're always going to look for numbers, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you got to be able to rotate guys in and out. And to be able to recruit that many defensive linemen, because that obviously was the strength of Liberty last year. They had great front 4 with their defensive linemen, and so you got to recruit those guys. And the same thing on the offensive line, so as Chadwell said, was, hey, listen, we got a lot of experience coming back in the offensive line. However, we got to get ready for the next years.
You go from really experienced to really inexperienced.
Like that. No, and that's what he talked about. And that was
so that to shore up a football team, the right there in the trenches. They always say it's all about the trenches. It couldn't be more true. It's all about the trenches in football.
Another important position is the quarterback. Liberty picked up
Trey Lowe.
The Trey Lowe transfer from Southern Miss.
Reese Mooney.
Reese Mooney.
Are we?
Freshman,
Oh, okay. So Chadwell talked about the importance of competition and really making that position group win the job. What do you see as far as the talent and in that position group and in that quarterback room?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what's the talent that's there now? Okay, you have that, and then you start looking, and I'm just starting to figure out exactly. And you heard Willie Korn get up at the press conference and talk about it a little bit, like what style are they going to try to be offensively? Like there's some option element to it. There's an RPO element to it. There's so many. So you have to have a quarterback like. It's not the way he runs his offense. It's set up where, okay, you have to have an athletic quarterback, right, who can move in space get out in space and do things in space, but yet at the same time, you have to have a smart quarterback, a guy who can read, because a lot of their stuff and a lot of their decision making is made on the fly with their reads. And then they obviously have a heavily involved in the passing game. You look at Grayson McCall and how well he threw the football for Coastal. So when you start looking at it, that position could take some time to figure itself out, because it's going to be brand new. This is not a Hugh Freeze offense. This is going to be a lot different. So it's going to be interesting to see who the cream that rises to the top of that position.
It will be interesting. The Trey located, started his career at West Virginia, so he's got a lot of talent. Was at Southern Miss the last few years. And then, Reese Mooney. Now, could you see a situation where Chadwell's like, listen, I'm going to start with a young guy, and you know what? We're going to lean on a running game maybe a little bit more early on, and we're going to grow with him. I don't know. But Reese Mooney, you look at his offer sheet, and you're seeing the Arkansas, Kentucky, to Miami, Nebraska. Like there are a lot of people very interested. Yeah. And so, the talent's there. I've heard a lot of good things about him from people down that part of the country. So that's another interesting guy. But yeah, you want competition. You want to push each other. And then the best guy you put out there. And I'm glad, too, that we've heard Chadwell say a few times, like, we don't want to do each week we're picking multiple quarterback thing. Like we saw how that went last year at times. It was rough, especially down the stretch. So we'll see who wins it out.
But he did say that that's why spring is going to be so important, because there were so many quarterbacks playing last year. We got to figure out who's the best guy and who's going to fit this offense the best. Was a Reese Mooney guy part of Freeze's, and then he just stayed? That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
The one guy I know they were really, I talked to Cody Ledeco, the tight ends coach, and the guy that they're really excited is a transfer, Jacob Jenkins, that came from Coastal. Yeah. Because they obviously had him there, so they made a push to be able to get him to Liberty. So, for him to come to Liberty, and when I was talking to Cody about it, it's like the tight end position in their offense is a little bit unique, because you can see now that more of the tight end spot has been involved in the passing game. Yeah. And so what they really try to focus on here is you got to have tight ends that catch the ball and can run, but when it's 4th and 1, they want guys that can move people so they can pick up
remember,
first
they
downs.
put a tight end in the league, and Isaiah Likely, who really talented tight end there. So this is a staff that can do it.
All right. Well, it should be exciting football season. And then another quick note, Chadwell continuing to bring in those guys that he wants to, like you mentioned, develop, but not only develop like on the field and off the field, but spiritually as well. Like it just is really neat to see.
It seems like you always say, boy, it seems like a good fit. It continues to just more and more feel
right. Anything else on football? We're excited about spring. I don't think your media pass went through, but I'll try to sneak you into it.
Try to get you in there.
You sneak me in?
Yeah.
Sneak you in the indoor.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So not sure. I think March 8th. I think there's
April
8th or 9th.
15th, I believe, is the spring game. So circle that date.
Yeah, should be
But I know they're starting before spring break, right?
Yeah,
couple practice before spring break, and then April 15th is
It's exciting. Right now, Coach said they're doing the CPR, which is like part of their development program of like
relations.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad he explained that, because I was like, well, no, that is important.
Trying to bring this program back to life.
First aid, When
he says, I'm trying to everything was going pretty well.
Awesome. Lady Flames basketball is tearing it up. The Lady Flames are on their 7th straight victory, I believe.
Oh boy, let me do that.
I believe it's 7.
7 straight.
Yeah. Some big wins, and again, late game situations. They're getting that experience. What is the realistic expectation as far as ASUN tournament? Do you think that this could be the year they take down FGCU?
What place? First place?
Well, they're in second right now. They're tied for second, but have the tiebreaker over the Austin Peay and Lipscomb, who also are 9-2. FGCU, they're slaughtering people right now. Their last one against North Florida, 106-51.
Almost bad to beat FGCU, because then they figured some things out, and now they're just.
But here's the good thing: Liberty wins these last couple at home. One that come from behind win in overtime against Jacksonville State that they had to survive. They beat Kennesaw State as well. But now you look at the rest of their schedule. They're playing basically the bottom half of the league the rest of the way. Their toughest tests were kind of at the beginning. So they have a chance you're at 7 straight, they're going to be favored the rest of the way. They have a chance to really go on a run here, and then you just hope, FGCU slips up or whatever. But bottom line, you want one of those top 2 seeds, because at least then you're playing in your building until you get to the final.
Imagine if you got the 1 seat on the men's side and the
that'd be
1 seat on the women's side.
Go
too.
out in
You get it
style for the
all
ASUN,
right.
baby.
Yeah.
Flame Central Podcast is powered by Alcova Mortgage, and if you're looking to buy a home, Joe Yock is your guy.
He's your guy.
Thank you. You know, the Flame Central, in all seriousness, the Flame Central podcast has been really good to me. We got a loan closing coming up here.
Nice.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But you know, for all the folks that are out there, and the Flame Central podcast reaches across a lot of states.
Sure.
I mean, it's just not
So
not
do you.
local.
Like
And-
you can
and
like
we
you
do.
can do
we
deals
got all
anywhere.
kinds of states
Yeah.
we got all kinds of states that we can do deals in. And because when I send out those mugs, I send out a lot of mugs, right? I send out some mugs.
How much
And
do you think you spend on shipping a week?
I know exactly what I spent on shipping. I shared Matt how much I spent on shipping. It was a lot, but that's okay because
I'll give you the budget code.
yeah, give me the budget code. And so, but the point is this: is that for all you folks out there, whether it's friends, whether it's family,
Whether it's foes.
whether it can be foes.
be
There's not a
enemies.
lot of foes. We talk about it in the Circle of Trust video, but we're not going to go there right now. Hey, if you are looking to purchase, or don't you roll your eyes at me. You're a big fan of the Circle of Trust.
I am. I'm in it.
Yeah, you're in the Circle of Trust. Okay,
I'm really close.
you're getting it. Okay, so yes, if you're looking to purchase or refinance, look me up on the Google machine. Joe Yock, J-A-U-C-H. Friends, family, whoever it may be, looking to buy a house, whatever state it may
Get
be,
it done.
reach out to me, please.
That
Thank
segment takes longer and longer each week. Okay, the mailbag. The Flame Central podcast is very light this week.
Yeah.
Again, Flame Central at liberty.edu. Send all your questions in. Are you not going to read the Flame Central?
There was only one. It was only a comment. It just said, "Are we ever going to let Emily into the pickleball league?" And that's an obvious hard no. So that's quick.
Has that question
That was it.
not been answered
I mean, I feel
already?
like we
That
kind of
question-
laid that out. Yeah.
Matt's alarm's going off, like he has somewhere
I
to
got a
be.
meeting.
So thanks so much for listening and watching the Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. We'll see you right back here next week.